It's off exit 10, presented by Capital District Sport and Fitness.
Almost nobody else on Earth has that name unless they're related to me.
Okay.
It's like super easy to Google me and find everything.
Yeah, right. You Google that last name, you're popping up.
You're never gonna find something unrelated.
That's
right.
That's like us, Serrani. So like, there's probably a bunch of Serranis in Italy that are there. But yeah, it's like there's some famous painter back in the day, and then it's usually me that pops up.
No, like on the entire planet Earth, there's probably about 100 people with my last name.
So all related then.
Yeah, in Europe. Yeah.
What's the background?
Poland. And Lithuania.
Yeah.
The SZ
is like an SH sound.
Yeah.
In Polish.
Okay.
So it's actually a very simple name.
Yeah.
SZ is just like the American SH.
I like
so
that.
Growing up, teachers would butcher all the time.
Oh, horribly. And my first name.
How do you butcher a Matthew?
Oh, Michael.
They have some issues.
I know. Or Matthew with one T, which isn't a name. It's only parents who don't know how to spell. It's like, that's not a real name. And always at Starbucks, I get Matthew with one T or something else stupid.
Paul, can you pop that mic up a little bit for Matthew? Slide a little bit closer.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right up into you.
All right. Got it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. Beautiful.
There we
go.
go.
Matthew, the only Matthew with one T that's appropriate is if you were to spell it M-A-T-H, like EU or whatever it is that, like.
Mathieu?
Yeah. Like
that's different.
Yeah.
Different.
It's not Matthew. It's much
Mathieu.
different. Yeah.
How many kids you have in class when you teach, or does it vary?
Oh my gosh, it varies. It can be between 5 or 200. It depends on the class.
Dude, completely different styles then you got to bring to the
of course,
table.
Yeah. Most of the time, though, it's 20 or 30, but I've also taught the, like the giant class for people who hate physics and have to take it, pre-meds and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've taught that once. It was a nightmare.
What do you prefer?
Oh, the smaller classes. I wouldn't wish that large class on my worst enemy. It's so horrible.
You can't know every student.
Exactly. It's impossible to get to know every student. How am I supposed to know 150 students?
Yeah.
That's just insane.
And how are you supposed to be able to pay attention to all of them and make
And
sure
their
they're all
needs.
paying attention and
Exactly.
their needs? And like,
Yeah, exactly.
Because learning styles are so different.
It's not just bad for me. It's bad for them.
True.
It's bad for everyone.
That's like kids that go to really big high schools around here, like a Shen.
Yeah.
You're like, man, like the benefit is probably they have more of a variety of academic programs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're in these giant lecture classes as a high schooler. It's like you're missing this key part, I feel like, of education, of like a teacher getting to know you and your learning style and helping you individually.
Exactly. There's something to be said for the teacher-student relationship. And with 20, 30 students, you can do that.
Yeah.
40, you could do that. 50, you can't do that. 100.
Yeah.
Well, that's like even in here, like when, it's nice when you get like a quieter group or like when we have a busy group, but all of us are here because then you can like, okay, let me spend a little more time with this person, talk to them. How's their day going? Get an idea of like where they are mentally today. So now we know what buttons to push and what buttons not to push. And then sometimes like that last group was pretty busy and, Dan had a one-on-one person for half of it. So Mike and I are bouncing around, you don't get that opportunity to, really dive into like, okay, how's your week been? And I wasn't here yesterday, so like some of them I wanted to catch up with a little bit, but just didn't get that opportunity. But I'll get that opportunity another day at least. Whereas if every time they come in, there's 200 or 150 kids, they're never going to get that chance.
No. What's your academic background?
You mean what schools did I go to?
Yeah, and what did you study? Well, yeah, just kind of what brought you to, your areas of research today.
Well, I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, so that's where I spent actually substantial portion of my life because I went to St. Ignatius College Prep, Catholic Jesuit high school. Very, very strong, very well-rounded education. In fact, my high school was one point, there was an article about it in Time magazine because it's one of the best schools in the state of Illinois.
Public school?
No, Catholic. It's Jesuit.
Private.
Yeah, it's a private school. It's really incredible. Like, most Catholic schools, you only learn the Catholic religion. I had world religions also. I learned about Judaism, Islam, everything. And I stayed in Chicago for college. I went to University of Chicago. Actually,
nice.
I got all of my degrees there. Well, my parents, getting up there in years, I wanted to stay with them, help take care of them. And so I got my bachelor's, master's, PhD, everything from University of Chicago. I was there for over 10 years. And then I was at University of California, Davis as what's called a postdoc. Postdoc is kind of like, it's like purgatory between being a student and becoming faculty, if you succeed in becoming faculty, it's like a 1% chance or
so
even less in
you
physics.
finished your PhD.
Yeah, it's a post-PhD
Yep.
study. Yeah, exactly. And so there I did that for, I think it was about 4 years in California. So I lived in California and then applied for faculty positions. And you're asking me, how I end up, where I am, because it was that or unemployment. Basically, people ask, why'd you choose UAlbany? I'm like, because it was that or unemployment. Like the way it works is in my area in physics is you apply to like 30, 40 positions and you will get 0 job offers or 1. If you're very, very lucky, you get 1 instead of 0, but the vast majority get 0.
And when you're teaching, they're hiring you based on your ability to teach courses, but also to research.
No, just for research.
All about research.
You're just thrown into the deep end for courses.
Right.
So the way it works is you get no training. And so, for example, there are people who go a different way. They get like a master's degree in education, but that's not how it works for people who do research, like at R1 universities like UAlbany. So UAlbany, I should stress, is an important major university. It's a Research 1 university. And so when I say it was that or unemployment, I'm not saying that was bad. Right. I'm really happy to be where I am.
What's a Research 1 mean?
Research 1 means that there's different classifications like R1, R2, R3, and what that means is it's a classification based on how much research is done, how many funding dollars are pulled in, papers are published, things like that.
Right.
So basically R1 means that in terms of research, it's got a similar ranking as like Ivy League schools like Harvard. So it's a really big deal for UAlbany.
So like R1, R2, R3 is like probably like Division 1, Division 2, Division 3.
Exactly. But for research instead of sports, exactly.
Right.
But then there's also small liberal arts college. That doesn't mean they're worse. It just means their focus is different. Right. So there will be places that don't do any research at all and don't have graduate students, but that's because their focus is just being a college, not being a university.
Okay.
So that means they're in a different league. They're not like lower or worse. It just means they're separate. They don't do research at all.
So that's one of the things because Siena just switched from a college to a university. So
yes.
That's one of the things.
They're on the border, exactly. So they're in
differentiates.
that gray area because they're adding research, adding students. So they're in that space, depending on the field or the department. They're adding graduate programs. Yeah, Siena's a wonderful place, but it's not a major research university. It's more focused on the undergraduates.
Yeah, Siena's a nice campus. I feel like a lot of kids like brush it to the side because it's like local and they want to go away. But it's like if you just took it like you're not right by home, it's like a fantastic place.
It really
there's
is.
Union, Excelsior, RPI. There's plenty of places. There's no need to go far away. Some of the best students I've had in my classes and in my research are local students who didn't want to go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or something like that, but are brilliant students. Yeah. And they wanted to stay local.
Yeah.
So what are you conducting majority of your research in now at UAlbany? Is dark matter your primary area of study?
Yeah, it's my mainstream field, and everything I mentioned earlier, that's where I did most of my time. So like as a graduate student, as a postdoc, I spent my time on dark matter, which is a mainstream. It sounds like it's fringe, but it's a very mainstream scientific field.
It does sound fringe, doesn't it? You're thinking sci-fi and
but it's a very mainstream field. You've got astronomers, particle physicists looking for dark matter for decades. So it's a very well-established field. And people always ask me, like, well, how did I get into it? There's no great story behind it. It was literally who was hiring. Literally, there's no grand story. Oh, why did you choose dark matter? I didn't choose it. I knocked on doors, and the professor had money to hire a student on dark matter. My PhD advisor, Juan Collar, he saw potential in me, and he had funding, and he hired me. But if somebody else was hiring, I would have done that instead. So basically, I have very broad interests. And so, like, I would have been perfectly happy doing, like, I don't know, cosmic ray physics or a collider particle physics. So I would have been happy doing any of those things because all those topics interest me, or astronomy, astrophysics. So
for you, though, your brain, your passion was in space and space-time or no?
It was, absolutely.
Yeah.
But not anything specific within that. I could go in any of the subfields.
Yeah. Yeah, and because how I found you and Kevin, who can't be here today, but is through, I think it was a Times Union article about UAP research that you two are conducting, which, I mean, I'm sure with a lot of people intrigues the hell out of them. So then, how'd you go in from studying your dark matter to then being part of this, what is it, UAPx? Is that where you're conducting that research?
Yep.
to being with that group. But yeah, I guess explain what you're doing with them.
Sure. First, I got to say for the record, I'm really annoyed that for the second time now, the Times Union has dissed me with their title.
What was the title?
They make sarcastic titles.
Like what?
So like the first time, one of my other projects is I've been designing a new type of nuclear reactor.
Oh, I saw that,
Yeah, and the Times Union had an article, and they said something, Professor Albany is working on safe nuclear power, and they put safe in scare quotes. And I was like, no, I really meant safe. This is not a joke. Like, I designed a new type of nuclear reactor that can't melt down.
What are you using? Lithium?
Lithium, yeah. So it can't have a Chernobyl, can't have Fukushima, and they put safe in scare quotes. And then on the UFO article, they said that we tried so hard to find UAP, but all we found was planes and drones, which is a lie. We also found one anomaly. And so, like, again, the Times Union just disses us over and over again. But you know the old expression, fool me once, right? Well, they fooled me twice. There's not going to be a third time. So next time I have a major breakthrough and they want to talk, I'm going to be like, you know what? No, thank you.
Those aren't even like clickbaity titles.
No, and to be clear, it's not the writer's fault. They apologized to me multiple times. The editor overrode the writers. So I just want to say I'm not dissing the very hard work of the journalist. It was some random chief editor or something overrode the journalist.
That like reminds me of like the first like Spider-Man movie where like he's like got to go to like the editor for everything and whatnot. Like and like. I forget the guy's
very
name.
first movie, like 2001
or maybe
or
the
two?
second one, maybe.
Okay,
I can't remember.
I love the original Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire ones.
The second one. It was the second one, I think, with Tobey Maguire.
Okay, so Tobey's not the original one. I think there was somebody else.
No,
before.
Toby was the original. Yeah, Toby was the first one.
Okay,
I think it was the second one with him where he has like an actual job because the first one he's in high school, so it would have been the second one. And I'm like, you got to go through all this work just to like you just wrote this whole article. And
I know.
Like,
but that's how journalism works. But I didn't answer your question. How did I get into UAP? And so basically, in addition to Times Union, we were also on ABC News. And they did a pretty good job. They messed up a couple minor details, not an issue though, and ABC did a great job. They squeezed us into the newscast. I think it's channel 10 here. Yeah. I always get confused with channel where I grew up in Chicago. It's channel 7.
You think about those childhood ones because you're going to the TV Guide channel.
Yeah,
and it's like
when I was in childhood, you could watch 2, 5, and 7. And that was almost it. There were other channels too. There was WG and there was Fox.
Yep.
But the main ones were CBS, NBC, ABC.
Jay, ESPN 25, Nickelodeon 50, MTV 21.
I didn't have cable. I only had the normal channels that you could get with an antenna.
Yeah. See, I had cable at my dad's. So for me, I had cable at my dad's. I had satellite at my mom's. So I had to memorize 2 different things.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily, I'm very good at numbers, but like I could still remember like from like DirecTV. Like 206, 207, 208 was my 209 were my 4 ESPN channels.
All right, 2579, Fox is 32, channel 50 for UPN and Paramount.
Yep.
And so like those were the more so Fox was one of the more obscure channels.
Yeah.
And Paramount you had to switch the dial from UHF to VHF to get the higher number channels.
Yeah, kids have no idea.
And PBS was channel 11. But anyway, back to your original question.
Hey, before we go UAPs though, I want to like brush over so the lithium, you're just not having the what's the fear with regular nuclear power? The uranium runoff? Is that
Yeah, exactly. But you know what's really weird? Even with uranium plutonium, we have designs that have existed for decades for perfect nuclear power plants that can't fail, and nobody cares.
But why? Why don't people care?
Because they're too scared. Because there's too much stigma. People don't realize that we have designs on the books from the 70s that are not there. You can't have a meltdown. Like literally a terrorist could fly a plane into the plant. Nothing would happen. People don't believe that. I've talked to journalists who laugh in my face. They're like, oh, you scientists think you fixed it all. I'm like, we did. The problem is nuclear regulations. No one's allowed to build a new nuclear power plant. And the safe ones, I'll be honest with you, the safe ones are really expensive. So if you really want to prevent Chernobyl, Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, and design a plant that will never melt down, it's very expensive. So that's part of the issue.
So it's partly just we're stuck from
fear. Fear and money.
Right.
Those are the issues. Yeah. But I've got a new design that doesn't even use uranium plutonium, so it's even safer. And the Times Union put safe in scare quotes. And I'm like, really? That's kind of a dick move, you know.
Does that ever go anywhere and catch traction? Or because money.
I don't have
you
funding.
Need funding for it.
I mean, in the current presidential administration, they're clawing back and cutting federal funding for everything they can get their hands on, like Doge and Musk.
Yeah.
So like the chances of me getting funding for it is like 0.
You know people who've been affected by like NIH funding being cut?
Left and right.
Jobs.
I've been affected. My dark matter grant was paused. And I got lucky; it got restored, but not before we had to fire people.
Jeez, yeah.
And so, like, it's like, oh, good, we got the money. good for the person we fired a few months ago, and so basically, I know people who are affected, but they decided dark matter isn't woke, and so we got our money back. It has nothing to do with climate change or transgender or anything, so like, okay, you guys are right.
Didn't at some point, too, they just look for, like, just words?
Keywords, exactly. So it's basically saving money using Control F. And so, for example, one of the grants that was canceled was for transition of high school seniors to college who have disabilities. They saw the word transition and they thought it meant gender transition. And it's like, no, this was for disabled kids, and they cut the program. It's just insane what's been happening.
Yeah, insane. But are they starting to now go back and go like, oh, this was wrong?
Yes, exactly. But it's like, so thank God some things are being restored. And so then all my family members who are like super pro-Trump are like, see, he's not so bad. And it's like,
yeah, talk to the 10 people more than 10 people that lost their jobs in the past
talk to
year.
the people whose jobs didn't miraculously spring back. Like
why the fuck from the beginning couldn't you go through with a fine-tooth comb?
Exactly. I know.
Oh,
the thing was move fast and break things. It's like Mark Zuckerberg.
We're rambling, but we won't go moon landing.
No, we should go back to UAP.
We'll go back to UAP now.
So you asked me, how did I get into this? It was my friend Kevin, who can't be here today. He really wrote me into this.
Goddamn it, 87 North.
The North Way.
Or 7. It's either 7.
It's
either 87 or 787.
I'm going to go with 87.
There's
it's
an
usually
accident, and he's stuck. So he can't make it. But he deeply regrets that. He would love to have been here with us. But basically, he roped me into this. He was talking for a long time about UFOs. He's on the faculty with me. So he'd always about UFOs, and he was the UFO guy.
At Albany.
Yes. And some of the faculty would giggle behind his back, which is horrible, right? He knows this. But then what really convinced me to join him, and the laughter really is coming to a stop, was 2017.
That time
you had the major article,
New York Times article
by Leslie Kane, Ralph Blumenthal, and Helen Cooper. I might get all the names wrong, but I know the lead author on it, I believe, was Leslie Kane in 2017, December 17. And then Lou Elizondo came out, and you had whistleblowers, and all of a sudden it really became evident that there's a there.
And that was like the Grush and Fravor in the Times Union article,
that was even later.
Later.
So then Fravor was early, so he's part of the Nimitz encounter, but Grush was much more recent. He only came out a year or two ago, I believe. But that only added more fuel to the fire, saying that maybe there is something here. And as a result, that's what convinced me to join with Kevin, who's already working on this. But I should also say that from childhood, I was already secretly interested in this topic because, I watch Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
I watch fiction, also, Star Trek Next Generation. And so I was already primed to be open to the exotic possibilities.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's probably our whole country, that New York Times article made it a little bit less fringe. To be having these discussions. So Kevin's doing research, or not even research, but he's into it. He ropes you in.
Yeah.
Then what's your next step after you and Kevin start discussing more?
Well, we got found by Kevin Day and Gary Voorhees, which are two of the witnesses to the Nimitz-Princeton encounter, the famous 2004 Tic Tac incident that's still not explained. It's been said before Congress that, that it's a legitimately unexplained incident. So my colleague Kevin even has a paper showing that speeds and accelerations during that incident are beyond human technology or human capability, even like projecting and extrapolating. So the thing is that there was this group, these two U.S. Navy veterans. They were looking for scientists because they wanted to do like expeditions to potential hotspots. So Kevin Day and Gary Voorhees found, I think, Kevin Knuth Googling, and then Kevin wrote me in. So they found Kevin Knuth because he wrote an essay, not a scientific paper, but an opinion piece for The Conversation. I think it's it's a website, blog, and saying that UFOs are interesting, they're important, they should be studied. So that's how Kevin Day found Kevin Knuth, and then Kevin and Gary approached both me and Kevin to join their team which they call UAPx, which still exists today. And in 2021, we did an expedition to an alleged UAP hotspot around the Catalina, kind of like Los Angeles and San Diego area, where in addition to the 2004 Nimitz encounter, there have been claims of UFOs going back to the 70s. There have been crazy claims, like underwater bases, things like that, UFOs, USOs. So that's why that location was chosen. And so we went there and we did a movie. Actually, we were in a documentary movie by Carolyn Corey called A Tear in the Sky. And then after that movie, we wrote a scientific paper that we just got published in a major journal just in June of this year on our findings from that expedition.
And what were your findings?
So we didn't find any smoking gun evidence of like aliens or something like that. But what we did find is at least one potential anomaly that we couldn't fully explain away. It's still probably a camera glitch or could be some sort of lens artifact, but we couldn't conclusively say that. So we end up with mostly explained things like drones, helicopters, planes, and this is why the Times Union article had the title. We had a lot of explained things. We saw the International Space Station, mistook it for a UFO. Very easy to do, even for scientists who know what they're doing. But we found one anomaly that we couldn't explain. It's just a dark spot with white dots in it in the camera, and we can't really. It might be, like I said, a camera artifact, could be a fly on the lens, but that doesn't explain all of the factors associated with that one event.
Does it have movement like the Tic Tac or like?
Well, not quite. The camera moves because it's trying to track. Like the camera gets distracted because an actual fly or other insect does fly by, so the camera tracks that, and then it rotates. But there isn't evidence of no motion in the phenomenon itself, except that there are these white dots that appear and then disappear. They don't move, but they're there in some videos, some frames, not in others. But there's not like a direct motion, if that's what.
Well, I guess if people don't know, like Paul, have you seen the Tic Tac video?
I was actually just looking it up. I guess
like explaining to people that haven't seen it before.
Yeah, there are three famous videos: the Tic Tac, the Gimbal, and the Go Fast.
Yeah,
that were declassified by the Defense Department officially, but before that they were leaked, like in obscure internet websites going back many years. I think people traced it back to somewhere on Reddit in 2004 or 5, but they didn't become famous until the year 2017.
And what's crazy about them is how the crafts move, and that there's no like propulsion system that you can see. Is that true?
Yes, that's true, but also we have to be careful because some of the videos might be explained, not all three. Some could be explainable as drones or balloons, but not all of them. And in particular, the Tic Tac incident is very, very challenging to explain with a mundane hypothesis.
Yeah, you could. Paul, did you find it?
Yeah.
For yourself to see? Yeah. How would you explain parts of like the Gimbal or the Go Fast videos in terms of, hey, we could explain this as being some type of human craft?
Well, the Go Fast, it could just be parallax, and it could be a bird or balloon or something mundane. It's not necessarily moving fast. That could be an optical illusion potentially, and some famous skeptics like Mick West have pointed this out, and they're probably right. But the thing is, with the Gimbal, we've got a strange shape and rotation, and then with the Tic Tac video, we have a strange shape, this Tic Tac, this ovoid object with two little legs underneath it, and more importantly, it was confirmed visually by David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, the other pilots, and their WIZOs, their weapons officers. So there were 2 planes, 4 people, I believe, at least, and more, I think, involved in the incident when you count the radar operators, everybody on the ships. And there they had visual confirmation with their human eyeballs of what we see in one of the released videos, the FLIR, the infrared video of the Tic Tac. So we have confirmation of anomalous behavior.
Is that what you guys use, UAPx, like FLIR cameras, or no?
We use everything.
Yeah.
So we have an instrumentation suite which we're constantly revising, right? So in our first expedition we had infrared cameras and visible light cameras, of course, got to have normal cameras as well. We also had radiation detectors. That's one of my specialties. And we didn't get there, but we want to add things like magnetic field sensors, sound sensors, things like that. We didn't get there with our first results, our first expedition, but our whole goal is multi-messenger, multimodal UFO studies.
Explain
not
that.
Just cameras.
So just all different means of
Everything.
data saying, hey.
Yeah, there have been claims of, for example, people have claimed to have been hurt by ionizing radiation from UAP, right? There's the Rendlesham Forest incident. There's the Cash Landrum incident where the Texas family involved actually sued the U.S. government. They sued the U.S. Air Force claiming they got cancer because of some, U.S. black project. And then there was the John Burroughs, U.S. veteran who John McCain fought for, and he got disability. And his medical records are still classified, by the way. He couldn't even see his own medical records. He got disability for insurance, finally, or acknowledgement of his disability, thanks to Senator McCain, for allegedly being harmed physically by a UAP. So we're not just bringing cameras to the picture. Kevin and I and my colleague Cecilia and our team UAPx, we're doing like the whole gamut. Cameras, infrared cameras, and ionizing radiation detectors, because that's going to be really hard to hoax. How are you going to hoax ionizing radiation? What, you're going to slip a Fiesta wear plate in our pocket? So that's really hard to hoax.
Have you had data that shows that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So our major anomaly that in our scientific paper from the expedition to Catalina that's covered in the movie A Tear in the Sky, our most interesting event, we got clued into it. Not by looking through the cameras, because that's hundreds of hours of video. That's really hard to do, even with AI. We actually looked at the radiation measurements first. Actually, it was our colleague and teammate, Jeremy McGowan, who first discovered this potential radiation anomaly where it looked like there was a slightly higher energy or rate above background. And that's what clued us in to go look at the camera images. And we were like, whoa, there's a weird camera image within a couple minutes. So it's within a couple minutes. It's not like the same second.
Right.
And so we can't conclusively say that's not a statistical anomaly. So that's why it's still a borderline case, but it's very interesting because we also found some potentially corroborative Doppler weather radar data. But again, how do you know that's not a bird or a cloud? And so it was on the borderline, and it was like not at the exact same time. It was several minutes later. And so that's why we conclude the paper very humbly, saying that we have this one potential anomaly in the Doppler weather radar and the radiation and in the camera. But unfortunately, all three of those could still be a coincidence. And we're very honest and humble about that in the conclusions of the paper.
The supplement industry is like the Wild West. The lack of regulations mean the supplements you purchase may not even contain the ingredients listed on the label, which is why I get my daily vitamins and supplements from Thorne. Thorne vitamins and supplements are made without compromise. Quality ingredients ensure your body optimally absorbs and digests your daily supplements, while in-house and third-party testing ensure you're getting exactly what you paid for. Thorne offers a variety of health tests reviewed by board-certified physicians that evaluate your lifestyle, gut health, sleep, stress hormones, and metabolic markers to determine which vitamins and supplements may be most effective in helping you feel and perform better throughout the day. For college and professional athletes, Thorne has NSF-certified supplements that make sure you won't get pop positive on a drug test. Whether you're an athlete, professional, parent, grandparent, or weekend warrior, Thorne's selection of high-quality supplements can help improve your quality of life. Switch to Thorne's high-quality and extensively tested supplements today at thorne.com/u/CDSF. That's thorne.com/u/CDSF. This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Drink Alchemy. Fatigue and brain fog affect us all, destroying everything we pursue. Whether as an athlete, artist, creator, or entrepreneur, our mind holds the key to performing optimally. By combining the most potent organic nootropics found in nature, Drink Alchemy delivers sustainable boost to creativity, memory, energy, and focus in one epic beverage. Stop pumping your body full of excessive amounts of caffeine and unknown proprietary blends from other energy drinks, and get clean energy from Drink Alchemy's natural nootropics like lion's mane, L-theanine, and caffeine from green tea. Used by Olympians, D1 athletes, MMA fighters, and entrepreneurs, Drink Alchemy has become a huge part of my daily routine, making sure I'm functioning optimally during long days of coaching athletes, running CDSF, and getting in quality workouts myself. So do yourself a favor and ditch the energy drinks loaded with caffeine, other stimulants, and who knows what else, and head over to drinkalchemy.com today. Live with your mind unbound and save 10% off your order by using code CDSF at checkout. That's drinkalchemy.com, promo code CDSF for 10% off your order today. And you as like a researcher and academic, in your head too, are you trying to write off things as like why it could be a human-made craft,
yes.
Why it could be from our government, another government, and working through this checklist?
Of course, we have a checklist in the paper of 10 or 11 hypotheses, and we do our best with them. Some we can never address, right? Because if it's black ops, human-made, that's very hard to prove or disprove, right? Or to especially to prove a negative like that.
Which you think our government has stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. And so we have to be very cautious, but that's why in our work we're very skeptical, self-skeptical. We're not debunkers, though. What that means is that we allow for the possibility it could be something exotic, like an alien ship. We allow for that possibility, but we don't jump to that conclusion without considering as many prosaic, mundane ideas as we can first. And that's hard to do because how do you know you didn't forget one idea, right? It's very hard to prove a negative. It's almost impossible, many would argue. And so that's the challenge, is we're open-minded, but we don't jump to like, oh my God, it's aliens. We're very cautious.
Do you feel like a lot of people jump to, oh my God, it's aliens?
No, a lot of people jump to one or the other. You have one class of people, you've got debunkers like Mick West, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who are like, aliens could land in their backyard and they would never be convinced, period, end of story. That's one end of the spectrum. Then the end of the other spectrum are crackpots and true believers who are like, it's definitely aliens and, they visit me every night and blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, it's very hard to stay in the middle. And my colleagues, Kevin and Cecilia and I are trying at Albany really, and with our partnership with UAPx, with Gary Voorhees, we're trying very hard to stay in the middle and really be honest, be skeptical but not debunking, be open-minded but not so open-minded that your brain falls out. Right. It's a very hard line to walk. Yeah. It's very hard because then you catch flack from all sides on X right? Or the artist formerly known as Twitter. On social media, you get hatred from literally everyone.
Because you're not in their camp.
Exactly, because the debunkers say we're morons and everything is human-made or natural phenomenon, and then the true believers claim that we're not going far enough. We're like part of the problem and not the solution, because we're claiming we haven't found the proof when there's proof everywhere that it's aliens. And we're like, we just want to find the truth, whatever it is.
And what is hard too is just a lack of funding to do everything you want.
No funding, yeah, exactly. Right. We can't even get funding for mainstream research anymore in the current climate. And yet, how are we going to get funding for something that's still a fringe topic?
But is the government conducting research on these things?
Oh, they are. There's AARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution
Didn't
Office.
they come out with, though, like, there's nothing we can...
Yeah. Well, part of the problem is they don't have enough funding, so I don't blame them entirely. But also, their first report was kind of a whitewash of nonsense. They explain
that for people.
Yeah, they published a report recently, not that recently, I think it was a year ago now, that was basically nonsense. It had like spelling and grammar errors. It had broken links in the
Explain
references.
Explain what the AARO is.
All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. It took over from the UAP task force, which in turn took over from earlier efforts like ATIP, that was Lou Elizondo's, and stuff. And so basically, it's a government organization that's officially publicly studying the phenomenon and looking at unclassified reports and research and potentially classified ones as well. So it's kind of like if your listeners have heard of Project Blue Book and things like that, it's meant to be better, different and better, and modern versions of that. And people argue and disagree on whether it's actually better or it's going to be another whitewash. And I've seen mixed signals from them. And honestly, it's because they have different leadership. They have a different person in charge now than originally. And so I have more hopes. I'm more optimistic now. But under the original leader of Arrow, Sean Kirkpatrick, they were skipping over, for example, the publications I mentioned earlier by me and my colleague Kevin. They pretended they didn't exist, and they were just it was clear to a lot of people it was basically Project Blue Book from the 1960s all over again.
So they're just cherry picking information.
Yeah, cherry picking the stories they could like debunk easily and things like that, and making claims that there's no evidence of any anomalies when there's evidence all over.
What's their incentive to cherry pick and just show this one side?
Well, it's because there are many incentives, because it could be a national security issue if UAP really are non-human, or if they're human but they're black ops.
Right.
American projects. There's incentive to continue to obfuscate and to not disclose what's known. So there's all kinds of ways we can speculate on what the incentives would be to do that. But I'm optimistic that Arrow is not all bad. They've got people on there that are not part of, whatever the grand conspiracy, who are just honest men and women trying to do their best. So I'm going to slam the last leader of Arrow, Sean Kirkpatrick, but I'm not going to condemn the current leader, John Kozlowski, or the current people on Arrow, because they're just trying to get the job done, and it's not their fault if other parts of government refuse to cooperate with them.
Why are you more optimistic now?
Because I've actually I was at a conference that the Arrow director attended. I didn't meet him in person. He was there virtually, and I've had not direct conversations, but indirectly heard that I think the new leadership of Arrow might be a more open and more interested in working with universities and scientists like myself. And so that gives me cause for hope. That hope could be crushed very easily, because past few decades, what have we seen? Government has some organization and they don't fund it properly. They fire everybody. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but don't hold your breath, right? That we're going to get any answers from the government, from Arrow or from some other part of the government.
Yeah, because you're right. You're dealing with okay, if it's a black ops situation, of course, the general public is not going to know.
Yeah.
But what if it is extraterrestrial? Now you're dealing with disclosure. What does that do? What's that impact on society?
Nobody knows. Some people think religions would collapse, etc., and governments would collapse, and there would be riots. I actually think nothing would happen, because people would think it's fake. Well, people just think it's just made up and it's AI. So there'll be a reverse conspiracy that says, there's no such thing as aliens. The government made up aliens to distract us from Ukraine and Gaza and the economy. And so I don't think society and religion would collapse. I think those fears are very much exaggerated.
Yeah. And you feel like if you're playing okay, what if there is extraterrestrial life? Our government knows. Mm-hmm. What if they are? You just slow leaking information. A Times article, here's a video there, and we just become numb to it. There's another UFO article,
exactly.
there's another this.
Slow drips. It's called slow drip disclosure. But to be clear, right, the U in UFO or UAP just means unidentified,
right,
or unknown. So we don't want to jump to the conclusion it's alien ships, because right now UFO and alien ship, that is completely synonymous in pop culture.
It is. That's a great point.
And that's wrong, because it can be ball lightning. It could be some other natural phenomenon, earthquake lights, earth lights, and so we need to be very, very careful. So my team and my friends and colleagues at Albany and on UAPx, again, we're threading the needle. We're open to the possibility of alien ships, but when it's still a U, when it's still unidentified, we don't want to jump to that conclusion.
Give me your list in your head, you, Kevin, people at UAPx, where you're seeing UAPs, unidentified, things in the sky, and you're saying, okay, it could be our government's craft, another government craft. It could be weather, things in the atmosphere. What else are you going through in your checklist?
It's a huge list, and it's really hard to be complete because there's always the thing you forgot.
Right.
But airplane, helicopter, drone. Of course, drone, right? Everyone's always talking about drones.
Everybody freaked out over those drones in Jersey.
Exactly.
Remember that?
Exactly.
What were they?
Nobody knows. My opinion, I don't want to go off on a tangent there, not because you asked me for the list, but my opinion is it started with something interesting and anomalous initially, but then the subsequent reports were all just nonsense. Planes and drones and people just overreacting.
People were heightened, so they were seeing things.
But I'm not like the debunkers. I actually think it started with something unusual and potentially anomalous, but then it snowballed into confirmation bias and hysteria. But going back to your original question, so plane, aircraft, drone. On the water, you can also have boat, whales. You can have animals, birds in the sky. You can have other flying animals, birds, insects. You can have atmospheric phenomenon, halos around the sun, moon, etc., sundogs. You can have weather phenomena or natural phenomena that are not well understood, and by some are still considered fringe. Ball lightning, earthquake lights, earth lights, piezoelectric, pyroelectric effects. You can have all kinds of natural phenomena that are not ET or NHI, non-human intelligence. So there's so many possibilities, including exotic ones, like the last couple I mentioned, that aren't aliens, that aren't intelligent. You could also have, it's not ships, it's some kind of weird light form that lives in the sky, made of plasma or something. There's all kinds of ideas that are mundane and speculative, but that don't involve extraterrestrials.
I think that's just because you're in pop culture, you see UAP, you see UFO, your brain goes to alien every time.
But then it's not you anymore. It's I.
Right.
It's IAP. It's IFO. We should just be honest about it. If it's an alien ship, then it's an IFO. You're claiming you identified it. So now it's an IFO, identified flying object. You've identified it as an alien ship. I'm not saying they're right, but I'm saying stop pretending that it's a you when you've already identified it in your head. Oh, it's an alien ship.
Right.
And this happens to me all the time on the, so I'm on a TV show, actually, The Proof is Out There. So every Friday night, I'm on the History Channel. There's a show called The Proof is Out There. Great show. And on that show, though, I'm always asked, is this a UFO? And the question, on subtext of that question is it an alien ship? And for me, it's like, I'll say yes to, is it a UFO? And I get shocked looks, and I'm like, because it's unidentified, I couldn't identify it. That doesn't mean it's an alien ship. And so, I get asked that question all the time. Do I believe in UFOs? I'm like, of course, people see things in the sky they can't understand. There's no question that's been accurate for thousands of years. But when people ask the question, do you believe in UFOs? That's not what they mean. They mean, do you believe in aliens? And I hate that question. I'm a scientist. Shouldn't be about belief. I hate that word when it comes to science. I have personal beliefs. I don't force those beliefs on other people. But I'm sorry, if there are facts out there, I'm going to force the facts on you. You're not entitled to your own facts, and you're only entitled to your own opinion if it's an informed opinion. So I don't even think you're entitled to your own opinion if it's an uninformed opinion. You're entitled to your own informed opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah. Especially in today's society where information is so vastly available on the internet. Yeah. Where people don't have an academic background, and you can't filter through sources, people's background, research. That's right. It's like you're taking things at face value for somebody says.
Exactly.
It's in all realms, in any part of society and culture when you're trying to learn things. Yeah. The internet makes it tough.
It is. You got to fact check, and people all live in their echo chambers. You got far left wing and far right wing people who don't talk to each other, who despise each other, literally. And this is not good or healthy for any field, any topic.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and when you're on your social media, your algorithm is feeding
your
you.
algorithm's going to feed you whatever nonsense you already like, and it's going to radicalize you. There have been studies on this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we had a PhD from RPI who studies extremism and radicalization. Yeah, she spoke about a lot of these things.
Yeah, the AI algorithm will happily turn you into extremist on any topic by just showing you more of the same videos that you already liked or already watched.
Yeah, 100%. If a UFO were to be extraterrestrial or alien, what are possibilities in your head? This is from another universe, another dimension. Is this us from the future? Are those all things you've thought about?
I have. There are literally hundreds of possibilities. I think there are actually too many.
What are ones where you go, could be plausible. I could get down with that.
Well, extraterrestrial. It's the classic one, and I really think it explains a great deal. I think it's reasonable. Again, I'm not saying jump to it, but I'm saying people should be allowed to entertain the possibility without laughter. That's what I'm saying. And the reason why I think it's so plausible is because, I mean, this is very different from when I was a kid and I was in school, right? We were still memorizing 9 planets, right? And we still today waste time arguing about whether Pluto is a planet. Who cares? Did you know that we've discovered something like, I think, 5,000, 10,000 planets now? Nobody talks about them. Nobody learns about them in high school. And it's like, we've discovered thousands of planets. And in fact, according to our best estimates, my colleague Kevin, who couldn't be here today, could talk better about this because that's his work, his field. I work on dark matter. He's very interdisciplinary, but one of his fields is exoplanets. We've literally discovered thousands of planets in a tiny patch of the sky. So if you extrapolate from that tiny patch of the sky, there are probably billions or even trillions with a T. There might be more planets in the Milky Way galaxy alone than there are dollars in the national debt. That's how many planets there could be. And how many are habitable by the human definition, which is very limited definition. Did you know we think it might be as much as 20%?
That's high.
That's high. You could have hundreds of millions of planets, and that doesn't count moons. And that doesn't count, like Forest Moon of Endor, in fiction. But, moons could be habitable. We think that there might be life on one of Jupiter's moons or Saturn's moons, like in the ocean in our solar system.
You're saying what's habitable to us, it could be different for a different...
So what that means is I'm saying that's limiting. Who knows what is actually habitable to extreme? We have examples of extremophile life forms on Earth that exist without oxygen or in high heat or in high cold, large amounts of cold. And so basically, this only with our limited definition of human habitability, we think that it could be as high as 1 in 5 planets could have water, oxygen. Again, that's an estimate. It could be lower, but you got to realize, even if that's off by a factor of 10, let's say it's too optimistic, that's still millions of worlds in our galaxy alone, and there are 100 billion other galaxies, if not more. Right? That's our observable universe alone. So basically, if it turns out that there are non-human intelligences out there, and they're not aliens, they're like extra dimensional, something else. But then you got the Fermi paradox again. Then it begs the question. Okay, but then where are the aliens? Where are the classic aliens? What's up with them? Of course, it's a separate question as to whether they could come here. That's a separate question. But I think there's an overwhelming amount of scientific evidence that we are almost certainly not alone. There's got to be aliens out there. But again, the skeptics will argue, but isn't it really hard to do interstellar travel? And that's a fair point. But basically, extra dimensions, universes, everything else you said, there is no scientific evidence for any of those things. We've been looking for extra dimensions for years. How many extra dimensions have we found so far? Zero. How many planets have we found?
Many.
Several thousand out of potentially millions or billions. So you just got to look at the evidence. And all the evidence says that if there are non-human intelligences, they're probably alien. We have no evidence of extra dimensions or that time travel is possible.
Our future selves,
It could be. I really like Professor Mike Masters. That's his thesis. That's his hypothesis. He's at University, I believe, of Montana. I hope I got that right, because I always mix up the letter M states, Montana, Minnesota.
Is he the guy?
What's his name?
Mike Masters. That's his name, and I just don't remember if he's in Montana. I believe he's in Montana.
Matthew, is he the guy who took, when people describe, your grays, your classic grays alien, he's like, if you morphed our faces into the future.
Evolution. Yeah.
Montana Technological University.
There you go. So he's a real professor.
Is that him who does that, the human evolution? Explain that, because
he suggests that it's really unlikely that the traditional gray alien shape that so many people claim, what are the odds that there'll be another bipedal person with 2 arms and 2 legs?
Because that's what separates us from everything else.
But what are the odds that would evolve on another planet? So his point is despite there being other planets, he says the interstellar distances are too great, the habitable planets are actually not that common, and he makes a fair argument. And he says, no, we're actually being visited by ourselves in the future. However, that is less likely still than the extraterrestrial hypothesis, in my opinion. And the reason is because we don't know how to time travel to the past. We know how to do it to the future. One-way ticket to the future, that's easy. You just go at near the speed of light, or you just orbit around a black hole a few times, and you can cast yourself thousands or millions of years into the future. That's easy. However, time travel to the past, we don't know if that's possible. And it might not be possible. And so that's an issue. But aliens, we know with very high degree of uncertainty, could be possible. So all I'm saying, let's look to the easiest thing first.
Yeah. Where does the thought of aliens start? Is that like a Bob Lazar in Area 51 or before?
Oh no, it goes
then?
way before that, right? You know, it goes back to the 1940s.
But
or
somebody's
even earlier.
saying I saw a non-human biological thing.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually think it's much older than people think, because there have been people seeing weird things for thousands of years, and they get interpreted in religious ways. But those could have been aliens.
Yeah, right. People say that.
Talk about the pyramids.
But there's Charles Fort, who is a local of Albany. Charles Fort is known as the first ufologist, or one of the first. He was writing in the 1890s, 1900s, 1910s. Everyone's forgotten about him. He's before Roswell. He's before Kenneth Arnold and his famous saucers. You know, he's before all that by decades. So what people don't realize, that the UFO problem or question is not an American one, it's an international one, but even more importantly, it's a global one. And it's an old one. It's not a recent one. It doesn't just go back to 1947. It's much older than that. And it does. Bob Lazar is relatively recent. I mean, this goes back decades, perhaps centuries, perhaps millennia.
There's hieroglyphics of people showing stuff in the sky.
You know, exactly. And people argue about the correct interpretation. But if you watch Ancient Aliens, you know, again, people are very skeptical. I'm open-minded, but I'm also very skeptical. So I don't immediately jump to every conclusion they do on Ancient Aliens on the History Channel show. I'm friends with many of the cast, actually. I've met Travis Taylor. I know him, and he's a great guy. He's also on the Skinwalker Ranch show, so that's how but I respectfully disagree with them. I'm not going to yell at them and be like, you guys are idiots, and that's not a hieroglyph of an alien, because maybe it could be. They have shown some very interesting drawings, including Native American drawings here in the U.S. that kind of do look like gray aliens and ships, and it's not that much of a stretch. So I'm not going to jump on their boat immediately, see like, oh yeah, these are ancient, these are American Indians or Native Americans or indigenous people drawing aliens. But I'm going to also be open to the possibility, you know what, it might turn out someday that they're right.
Mm-hmm. This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Anchor and the all-new Anchor Pro, crafted to endure the most high-performance workouts without the high cost and space requirements of a standard cable machine. Named the best portable cable machine by Men's Health Home Gym Awards, Anchor provides the full functionality of a cable machine in one small space-saving unit. Designed with user-friendliness in mind, Anchor can simply be attached to any squat rack or placed on any wall in your home gym using its intuitive sliding track mount. With up to 65 pounds of resistance, Anchor is built for high speed and controlled exercises alike, from cable presses and rows to chops and lifts. The Anchor has been a game changer for us here at CDSF, and now you can enjoy the same professional quality cable machine in your own home gym by heading over to anchortraining.com and using code CDSF10 for 10% off your order today. Get all the benefits of a cable machine without the high cost and installation fees. Enjoy the portable luxury and space-saving performance of Anchor today by going to anchortraining.com and using code CDSF10 at checkout. That's anchortraining.com, promo code CDSF10 for 10% off your order today. This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Bombas. Bombas makes my favorite pair of socks, hands down, alongside the most comfortable and durable underwear, t-shirts, and other everyday clothing staples. Their wide variety of sock lengths, colors, and patterns have you covered, whether you're working out, going out, or lounging at home. I love the Merino Wool Blend Athletic Ankle Sock for long days of coaching at CDSF and getting in workouts myself. And if I'm at home doing work around the house, you better believe I'm wearing my Bombas Sunday slippers with their comfy memory foam midsole. And when you buy from Bombas, you're also buying for those in need. For every item you purchase, Bombas donates one item to people in overnight shelters, transitional living facilities, rehab centers, Title I schools, and medical service professionals. Take my word, if you want to upgrade your sock game to one that's more comfortable, durable, fashionable, and charitable, head over to the Bombas link in this episode's description to browse their full collection of everyday wear, and don't forget to use code CDSF20 for 20% off your first order. Yeah, and then, if it is, like, your contrast in different events. Like you emailed me about Colares, right?
Yeah.
In Brazil.
Yeah.
You have that where people claim to be hit by rays of light.
Exactly.
Right?
Injured.
But then you have like the Phoenix lights.
Yeah.
Where it's just floating there.
Harmless.
Harmless.
But you got so many videos, so much evidence. But Phoenix lights is another great example. So it's gotten to the point to me, going back to one of your much older questions of how I got into this.
Yeah.
At some point, the evidence has piled up. Not that it's aliens, rather that there's something happening that's worth like understanding.
Yeah.
It got to the point where at some point the explanation it's aliens for some of the cases becomes simpler than the debunking explanations.
Yeah.
At some point the debunking explanations get so dumb, like, oh, the eyewitness was wrong at the same time that the radar had a software glitch, at the same time the infrared camera had a glitch. Like, really? And so like at some point some of these incidences, there's so much corroborative evidence, not just from human eyewitnesses, which are fallible, but from cameras and videos and from, radar data. And, so you can check whether it's a plane and things like that.
Right. Yeah. And what about, if I'm thinking like cattle mutilation, cornfields, weird, right?
Yeah, it's weird, exactly. So when you put all of these together, you don't have definitive proof of anything, but what you do is you have evidence that this is worth exploring. So Kevin, if he was here, would talk to you all about that because he went to school in Montana as well as Minnesota, both of the letter M states, because he got degrees from both of them. He got, master's, PhD, or different degrees in physics. And so he learned about this when he lived in Montana, and he was like, what the hell? And that's where he learned about cattle mutilation, the nuclear missile silo buzzing, UFOs buzzing our nuclear missile sites. And, people laugh at this. Wall Street Journal tried to debunk this. They're like, oh, it never happened. Yes, it did. And then they're saying, oh, it's a hazing incident. Really? We're going to be hazing people with our most valuable, with nuclear weapons? Really?
Wait, what's the claims? They're shutting down?
Oh, that UFOs shut down nuclear missile silos. And you've got Wall Street Journal tried to debunk this, and there was a book that tried to debunk this. You can't debunk this. This really happened. It happened in the U.S. and in Russia. In Russia, UFOs allegedly turned on a missile silo, and we were minutes away from World War III, and we couldn't stop it, and then they all shut themselves off. And people claim this never happened, but there's documentation that we have of this, but people can just claim the documentations are all lies.
Is it true that there has been an increase in sightings since the invention of nuclear weapons?
Yes, and in fact, some of my colleagues, friends on the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, SCU, it's another organization just like UAPx. I'm a member of them as well. And they hold a conference every year in Huntsville, Alabama, and they also publish papers. And they did a study. They did a study showing that they're claiming statistically significant evidence that UFOs show up more around nuclear missile silos and sites or just nuclear material sites. Not just military installations in general, but specifically nuclear sites.
Could you explain that too, to just it's governments making sure things are safe and going to plan, and they have crafts we don't know about, and they're above these sites?
Then why haven't they just admitted that?
Right.
And also, if that's true, if we have these miraculous technologies, then why has the U.S. lost every war since World War II? We lost Vietnam, we lost Afghanistan. So if this is black ops stuff, I'm really upset because that means we've got stuff better than our F-16s and F-18s, and we're not using them.
Right.
And that makes me angry because as a taxpayer, then I help pay for that, right? And why aren't we using it to save lives? Why are we still letting our soldiers die in battle with primitive technology or our pilots? That's insane. So if it is black ops, yeah, of course I can't disprove that. But then that means that not only are we screwing with our own pilots, like in the Nimitz encounter incident, but that also means we're not using our best stuff in real wars around the world.
Yeah. So it's not just isolated to us in our country. You said it's over.
Yeah,
it's
Brazil, international.
Russia,
Would we risk war with Russia or Iran, as for example? There's famous UFO incidents in Iran. Really, we're going to poke that bear back in the day?
Then don't you have to say if it is extraterrestrial life and other governments know that everybody is communicating together to keep this quiet to society?
I know, and that's one of the things that skeptics bring up, and I think that's a fair point, is that the U.S. is not the only country on Earth. So, in fact, one of my hopes is that if it really is NHI, or aliens, or some other form of non-human intelligence, I want there to be evidence, like a crash, for example, in a country that doesn't give a shit about classification and literally publishes it the next day. Oh, by the way, here are the dead alien bodies. So that's my hope, is that there's a crash in a country that either A, doesn't give a shit, or that's like, this is a horrible thing to say, but is in civil war and doesn't have a government. And so they can't They can't cover it up fast enough before the U.S. swoops in. And I really hope that happens, honestly.
Yeah.
If NHI or aliens are real, because I don't think we have the smoking gun evidence yet. We just have evidence that suggests this is a non-laughable hypothesis,
right?
But we don't have like the definitive evidence. Like David Grush didn't whip out a dead alien body in front of Congress, right? There was an Onion article about
right?
And so we don't have that proof yet. We have evidence, but not proof, right? Evidence and proof are two different words.
Right.
We have evidence, we don't have proof.
We have crash retrieval programs, though, right? Our government.
We don't have proof of that.
Right.
But I've talked to people who've allegedly been involved or who have talked to people who've been involved. So I think there might be a there. And if that's true, again, why aren't we using our best stuff in Afghanistan, Ukraine? You know, people, I've said this to people who say, yeah, Matthew, you don't understand. We would save that for when the U.S. is actually under attack. You mean like the mainland? I'm like, we got nuclear weapons already. What do we need this for? Like, it doesn't make logical sense, but also it doesn't make scientific sense, because to explain some of the anomalies we've seen, it would mean the U.S. is like not 10 or 100 years, but thousands of years ahead of everybody else. How?
Because of the propulsion systems you're seeing.
Like, how do you explain the accelerations we've seen? We've seen speeds recorded on radar as high as 40, 50, 60,000 miles per hour. You know, Hermann Oberth talks about this. He was the mentor to Wernher von Braun. He was talking about this in the 50s. He gave a lecture on flying saucers, and he said, oh yeah, we've seen them going tens of thousands of miles an hour with no sonic boom in the air somehow. How do we have, you're saying we had that tech in the 50s and we didn't tell our smartest scientists about it? Like, we didn't tell any of the Manhattan Project people about it? Really? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, there's so many reasons to be like, this is extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence.
There's so many reasons to say it's not from the U.S.
Right.
And if it's Russian, no way. They would have crushed Ukraine already.
Yeah,
if it was Chinese, they would have crushed Taiwan.
Yeah.
They would have crushed them overnight if they had Tic Tacs or these things. Overnight.
That's a great point. I mean,
yeah, it's definitely not Russian or Chinese. Okay,
yeah.
It's not Russian because it's not held together with duct tape. And yeah, I'm going to insult the Russians on the podcast. I don't care. Screw them. You know, my mom was born in Ukraine, and her city had air raid sirens for the first time since World War II. So screw them. Yeah, I'm going to make fun of Russians. They might come now. They're going to come poison me with like radiation in my soup, right? Like that one guy. But seriously, it's not held together with duct tape. Therefore, it's not Russian. Okay, right. Let's be honest about it. And it's not Chinese because they would have taken over Taiwan overnight.
Yeah.
If they had some of this text. I mean, come on.
You saying those things, right? Because people
just use logic,
right?
Use common
logic,
sense,
or that our government isn't using it.
Give me a break. So we're gonna screw with our Top Gun pilots, like Fravor?
But where does that leave you? It's weather, or it's
It's and some of these cases you can't argue it's weather. People are seeing a craft that looks metallic. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I'm not saying that proves this alien. It doesn't prove it. It just says, look, that's a reasonable explanation.
There's a there.
Exactly, there's a there.
I like that you said that a couple times.
Yeah, I got that actually from my colleague and friend Eric Davis, who you may have heard of the name. He's famous because he's been working with the crash retrieval people, talking to them. Not anymore. I'm saying he's trying to live a quiet life now. But actually, he's joined the faculty at UAlbany as an adjunct professor. And nobody knows, because I'm not on social media. If people on X heard this, they would lose their shit. They would lose their shit that Eric Davis is working with Matthew and Kevin. But to be fair, not on UFOs. He wants to work on other things.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want to be associated with
It's better for your mental health that you're not on social media.
It is, yeah. Because I've got better things to do, like write scientific papers to try to push this topic forward.
Of course.
And I don't have time. I've been insulted left and right on X. People have said, the usual, I work with child pedophiles, not true, nonsense
people
like that.
People said that?
Oh, yeah, of course.
What's wrong with people?
I've been insulted on X left and right, and I'm not on it. So I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And so, but you know what that proves to me? There's a saying that if you're catching flack, that means you're over the target. So the fact that I've caught so much shit, and Kevin has, to me, that's evidence that we're poking something we're not supposed to, and we're asking the right questions.
And that's how we're going to get answers. It's the only way.
Yeah.
Yes, did you get that?
Yeah.
What time you got to go? We're almost getting there right now.
Yeah,
this flew by.
Push it maybe 5 more minutes, but I've got to get, unfortunately, I have a 1:30 meeting.
No, I appreciate you doing this. This is, it's just what I wanted. I'm so, like most people, just so curious about this
you should make
topic.
sure, check your list and make sure there wasn't any question or topic.
Let me roll through it.
I mean, the only thing I was going to say, because I saw it on our list here, was like, I'm terrified of the open ocean.
Yes.
But I'm also convinced that there's some sort of
base underwater.
Oh yeah, it's possible.
Life form
we haven't
down
explored all.
Because I'm like, we know like nothing about the ocean.
Well, not nothing.
But very little compared to what we know.
It's exaggerated how little we know because with modern technology, we've done some mapping. So it's not zero, but you're right. It's a huge amount we don't know. New species to find, et cetera.
I mean, listen, this is me being a crackpot. Like, I believe the Megalodon's down there somewhere. There's a Megalodon somewhere.
or a plesiosaur, right? Like Loch Ness.
Yeah.
But I really think...
but crafts could be transmedium.
Transmedium, we've seen that. USOs, unidentified submerged objects. Russians, giving them credit now also as they came out with a lot of good stuff the past few years. We're saying that they were encountering... Soviet submarines were encountering USOs, but also just in general, we have this connection with water. Like in the Tic Tac incident, it wasn't officially a USO incident, it's a UFO or UAP incident, but, Commander Fravor describes the water like frothing and the Tic Tac going, well, what was doing the frothing in the water? Right? And so basically, and we have all, Jeremy Corbell has released, there's these videos of like things going into the water without splashing. There's the Agua Dia video from Puerto Rico.
like him and George Knapp put out a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah, so there's evidence of transmedium and USO stuff. And so, it's not just a question of our skies or outer space. There's something happening with the water, and we don't understand the connection. And we've seen things coming out of the water, going into the water, things on the water.
What about the jellyfish one that Corbell put out? Do you remember that video?
Oh, I don't think it's a jellyfish. It's an Imperial probe droid. From Hoth?
Explain.
You're not a Star Wars fan.
No, Jordy, are you?
And there are no Star Wars fans here.
Go, explain.
Really?
Go, give it to us.
In Empire Strikes Back, there's the Imperial probe droid on the snow planet Hoth, and Han Solo shoots it. It looks like the jellyfish UFO.
Paul, look up.
I think I know.
Look it up. Just look up Imperial probe droid. It goes and then Han Solo blasts it. But then the Empire knows that the rebellion is on Hoth. So I think it's an Imperial probe droid. No, but seriously, I don't think there's enough evidence from that video to claim it's anomalous. I was actually on News Nation talking about that when it came out.
Yep.
And I disappoint a lot of people. I know Jeremy Corbell probably hates my guts
because you said I can't.
I said, well, it could be crap on the bird crap on the window. I think I rule. I think I rule that out, but I mean, it's still plausible. But I pissed off a lot of people because I'm like, it could be a collection of balloons flying together. It could be bird crap on the wind. We need more. He says, oh, there's more video where it goes into the water. I'm like, oh, conveniently we don't have that. The rest of the video. I'm like, come on.
Right.
And so like, I'm not convinced by that video is not one of the best as far as I'm concerned.
What is, for our listeners, if they're going to look it up, what is your most convincing video you've seen? Is it TikTok? Is it Gimbal? Is it GoFast?
It's the 2004 Nimitz and Princeton encounter with the Tic Tac. I really think that's the best. Recently, there's a YouTuber, Professor Simon, who claims it was a Lockheed Martin drone. And again, I'm like, really? A Lockheed Martin drone that can pull several thousand Gs and several thousand miles per hour? Give me a break. And then he'll say, oh, there's no proof that it had those velocities accelerations. And I'm like, read my friend Kevin's paper. Okay, there is evidence, not proof, but there is evidence of unusual speeds, unusual accelerations in that case and in others. You're going to tell me it's a Lockheed Martin drone. Give me a break. Screwing with our pilots, and then they don't admit it?
Well, because you have to think, air
We've
safety
had congressional
standpoint.
testimony. So why didn't they just say, oh, by the way, a company, we can't tell you who, has claimed ownership of Tic Tac, we're good, it's solved. Why are we continuing then? Why are congressional hearings still mentioning the incident if it was just Lockheed Martin? Give me a break.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not human. It's not U.S. tech, and I think it's not human tech.
Yeah. Last question, then I'll let you go.
Okay.
Is it more likely we're living in a simulation or not?
Oh, no.
Is this a big last question?
That's a big last question. So I'm going to answer as fast as I can.
Okay.
I despise the simulation hypothesis. I think it's dumb. And I don't think it's science. It's not a scientific question. It's a religious one. It's philosophy or religion. I'll explain why very quickly because this is the last question.
Yep.
This angers a lot of people because I know there's Rizwan, Verk, and people have talked about simulation. Elon Musk has talked about it. It's dumb because you can never prove it or disprove it. Therefore, it's not scientific. Right. So here's what I mean by that. There is no evidence I can present to a true believer in the simulation hypothesis that would convince them that, no, this is the real world. Name one. Name one. You can't. Because any evidence I present, they'll say, oh, that's what the simulation makers wanted you to believe. So there's literally nothing I can bring to the table that disproves the simulation hypothesis. Now let's take the other option, proving it. Some people who believe the simulation hypothesis say, oh, well, look, we live in a digital world. It's made of atoms. The real world will be continuous. And I'm like, how do you know that? That makes no sense. Why shouldn't the real world have building blocks like atoms and molecules? Why does that prove it's a simulation? It doesn't. That's just their opinion. So to me, the simulation hypothesis is good at 3 a.m. over beers or marijuana. That's the time for the simulation hypothesis. But the simulation hypothesis is fun. It's philosophy. It's not scientific. We will never prove it or disprove it, and therefore it's a waste of time for me as a scientist. I'm like, I don't care. This is the world I live in, and I'm going to study it. I don't give a damn it's a simulation or not. But also, I'm religious. Lots of scientists aren't, but I believe in God. And it says in the Psalms that God isn't a dick. I know I'm paraphrasing the Bible, but it basically says God isn't evil. Why would he mess with us and put us in a simulation that isn't the real world? I mean, come on. Like, it's just so dumb on so many levels that I despise even entertaining a simulation hypothesis, because all it is mental masturbation. We'll never prove or disprove it's real. Never. And I challenge anyone who's a proponent of simulation hypothesis to tell me, what could I tell you to disprove it? The answer is literally nothing. I would challenge anyone to give me a list of things that would disprove or prove the simulation hypothesis. The answer is nothing. And that's why you'll notice I'm calling it a hypothesis, not a theory. I'm not going to elevate it by calling it a theory, because in science, the word theory means fact. And people are mind blown when I say that. I'm like, yeah, atomic theory, theory of gravity. Right. We still use the word theory of evolution. It's fact. We use the word theory in science. When most people, when they use the word theory, they mean hypothesis. Yeah. So in science, a hypothesis is almost equivalent to a WAG, wild ass guess. And so hypothesis can be anything. You can come up with any testable hypothesis. But in the word theory, we elevate that to something that, I should be clear. I use the word fact there, but it's still disprovable. It just means that it is so close to fact now that it's so strong that we're going to call it theory. So Big Bang theory, general theory of relativity. Now, there are counterexamples like string theory. It's not a theory. It's a hypothesis. So there are examples like that muddy the waters. But most of the time, when we use the word theory in science, we mean something that's so well established as fact that if it's wrong, it's only partially wrong. Right. It's incomplete.
Right. There's so much evidence.
Exactly. So theory of relativity.
It's not necessarily the full proof, but there's so much evidence that it's almost proof.
You can't prove anything in science. Nothing's provable. It's not math.
Right.
Science doesn't work like math. The way science works is you collect evidence to the point where, look, there's so much evidence that this theory is now one of the foundational theories. Big Bang theory, theory of evolution, things like that are so basic that you're almost you're relegated to the loony bin. Sometimes unfairly, like I said, with the UAP, that's unfair. But sometimes rightfully so, you're relegated to the loony bin if you don't subscribe to that theory. Because I'm like, well, the evidence is so overwhelming that's like, come on. It's like not believing in germs or that atoms exist. We can see them under a microscope. But to me, I turn that on its head. And with UAP, I say, look, there's so much evidence, you shouldn't laugh at it. People used to laugh at germs, atoms, theory of relativity. One of the proponents of atomic theory committed suicide because people refuse to believe atoms exist. Think about that. So Ludwig von Boltzmann killed himself because scientists were like, atoms. There's no such thing as atoms. And so I fear the same thing's happening with UAP. People are laughed at. Their careers are ruined. And so I think that UAP are worth studying, and we need to stop laughing at people, including people who believe they're aliens. That's a legitimate hypothesis. Stop ridiculing people for saying, you know what? This might be non-human tech. Don't laugh at them because there's evidence of that.
Of course. Thanks for doing this today.
You're welcome.
This is really a pleasure.
You're welcome. I'm sorry I got to run.
No, maybe
we didn't talk about Lazar and 115, element 115, but we're
I
out
would
of
love
time.
to do another at some point when you're free and we're free.
I only live 25 minutes from you.
Yeah, we will. This was really enjoyable.
And maybe we can get Kevin on too. If there's
definitely.
if there's no accident.
Look, he's so sorry about this. He's literally stuck in traffic and he can't go anywhere. Because it's illegal to use, the police turnaround. Because they'll get you.
Oh, don't worry. I know. I've done it.
You know how they'll get you? Easy Pass. They know you cheated. They know you did it.
Well, it wasn't even the Easy Pass.
Oh, the cop saw you?
I just happened to turn around and the cop, there was a cop that happened to be driving and he's like, dude, what are you, actually, I followed another car, and that's what it was. And then the cop was like, what are you doing? I was like, dude, I just followed another car.
And they got you.
And then he's like, and it's still illegal. I was like, he let me go. He was super cool about it. But I was like,
you're lucky.
I was like, my bad.
Well, one time I resisted the temptation. There was an accident on I-90, and I was literally late for class for teaching. And it literally took me 3 hours. Normally it's a 20-minute drive. Right there was the illegal turnaround. And I called my wife. She's like, don't do it. Everyone was doing it, not 2 people. Yeah. Literally, I saw 30, 40, 50 cars do it because literally we weren't moving. Hundreds of cars did. But you know what my wife said? They'll catch all of you. I'm like, that's not possible. She goes, computer. Yeah. It's automated. You'll get an automatic ticket.
Especially if it's like on one that's
exactly. And I'm like, damn, you're right. If it wasn't for the automated tickets, I would have gotten away with it. But she's right. They just it's automatic. I'll just get a ticket in the mail. Yeah. All right, but I got to run to my 1:30 meeting.
You do it. Matthew, thank you. This has been amazing. I appreciate you, and we'll catch everybody next time. Thank you.